You swatched your Daniel Smith watercolors with me in the last video, so now it's time to paint with me using the Daniel Smith yellow ochre mixtures we made in the last video. If you missed part 1 and part 2 of these series, I encourage you to go back and watch them. I'll link those in the top right-hand corner. This is a digital stamp set that is now available, as well as this image here that we swatched in the last video. And you can find these on my website. All of the information will be in the description below. We're going to pick out some colors from our Daniel Smith watercolor swatch book page here and use those to paint this A2 sized card. These are the colors that I chose for today. You can certainly choose different colors. I wasn't thrilled with the quinacridone gold and how that mixed with these colors. I'll talk more about that later. So if you're painting along with me, you might want to consider swapping out that color. So I have printed this digital stamp on a piece of 6x9 watercolor paper. This is Saunders Waterford High White Cold Press paper. It's my favorite paper to work on. I think the pigments move beautifully on it. But of course, you should use whatever watercolor paper you have or whichever your favorite is. If you need any help printing out your digital stamps, I'll link to that video up above that shows you how to print out your digital stamps in a word processing program. So I'm going to start off with green gold. If you remember from the swatch video last time, I was really enamored with all of the green mixtures, so I definitely wanted to work that into this card. I'm going to start off with this Dragonair pattern that I have in the middle here, and I'm just going to add a very thin layer of clean, clear water to every other segment of this design. You don't want to paint areas that are adjacent to each other because then your colors are just going to blend into each other and you won't have any delineation in between each one of those what look like dragon scales. So what I'm going to do is drop the highest concentration of the pigment into the top corner of this, we'll call it a dragon scale, and I'm going to leave the other edge just so that it blends out into that clean, clear water. I'm not going to put pigment in that lower corner. This is going to help me retain a highlight. Now, these three particular areas I do the best in terms of leaving the highlight, but I'm going to show you a trick at the end of the video in order to get your highlight back if you lost some of your highlights during your painting. So make sure you hang with me to the end. I kept the vast majority of this video at real speed so we can talk through some of these watercolor techniques. If you find this is too slow for you or too fast, use the little gear icon in the lower right-hand corner of your YouTube settings. That's where you can find the settings and you can actually adjust the speed of the video. So please feel free to go ahead and adjust the speed to suit your needs. So I'm going to paint a few more of these, and I want to show you these because they're adjacent, and then I'll start trimming out some of the repetitive painting that I'm doing. Like you can see that the rest of every other of those segments. So I have clean, clear water down, and look how beautifully the pigments move on this paper. I'm telling you, the pigments move on this paper like no other paper I've used. I have tried Arches and Fabriano paper, which are really great papers. They're 100% cotton, high quality papers. They just seem to move so well on this paper, which is why I love it. I'm going to switch over to the Indian Throne and yellow ochre mixture that we made in our last video. You can see that here. And of course, for all of these, I'm going to need to mix up a little bit more. Now, of course, when you're mixing your paints, depending upon how much Indian Throne you use and yellow ochre you use, you can get a vastly different color. So lots of different hues and tones through there. I'm not actually sure which one of those words is correct. Is it a hue or is it a tone? I don't think it's actually either. Maybe it's values? Concentrate? I don't know. It's not a hue or a tone. I think that those are when you add black and gray. Ignore me. Anyway, depending on how much yellow you use, it's going to look vastly different than if you use more blue. You see where I'm going with this. So you can see that I have mixed up almost like a greenish, brownish gray. It's not a super attractive color, but I was kind of looking at these little things as almost little nests for eggs. So I'm going to color these up in the middle. Now, what's interesting about indanthrone and yellow ochre when it's mixed together is you're going to see it granulate and you're going to see the colors separate once it's dry. I'll show you that in just a couple minutes. The blue and the yellow separate, and what it leaves behind is almost like a brown earthy color with the grayish blue. So it's a really cool mixture. I really enjoy the granulating colors. So I filled these little eggs with clean, clear water, and I'm just dropping in that indanthrone and yellow ochre mixture. And I'm kind of playing around with it. You almost want to just, for a wet on wet technique, you almost just want to drop it in there and leave it alone. Down here at the bottom, I felt like I had way too much water in that tiny little egg, so I'm just kind of sucking it up with a thirsty brush. Make sure your brush is dry, then touch it to the excess water or pigment, and it'll suck it up, and then you can just blot your brush off on like a microfiber cloth that I have over to the side. So I dried out that little egg a little bit, and I'm just adding a little more of that pigment. Okay, so the next color I'm going to use is going to be the quinacridone coral and yellow ochre mixture. So I'll mix up a little bit more of that. I like this color, and I'm going to show you two different ways that I painted these segments. I think I got a little off kilter because these particular segments, or this part of the design, is more busy. It has all of those lines in there. So I find it best to kind of look at these as not each individual line, but just segments of those kind of curly S shapes, and take it as that. Think about where your shadows are going to be, where those segments overlap. You're going to want it darker at the top of the S and the bottom of the S. And in the middle, you kind of want to leave a highlight. Again, at the end, I'll show you how you can get that highlight back if you completely lost it. So here I'm just adding some clean, clear water. Same thing here, you guys. You don't want to add too much water in this small space. You also don't necessarily want to paint areas that are adjacent to each other. They'll just bleed into each other, and you'll have one big blob rather than individual segments that you would get if you let those areas dry before painting the adjacent element. For my brush, I'm using a number 6 round brush from Wonder Forest, and I'll have those linked down below. These are my favorite brushes. They hold the perfect amount of water for me. If you find that you are struggling with your watercolor, the two main things I would look at are not necessarily your paints, because you can get away with some lower quality paints if you have higher quality paper and you're using the right brush. My watercolor results drastically improved when I changed my paper and my brushes. And I'll link a video up in the right hand corner regarding 4 watercolor brush mistakes to avoid, in case you're interested in that or haven't seen that video yet. So I'm going to move on to these next two. So you can see in that second little S shape that I did, I left more of a highlight in the middle, and I'll do that here. So I dropped in the clean, clear water, and then I'm going to drop in that quinacridone coral yellow ochre mixture at both ends and leave the center open. These are also slightly larger than the ones to the left that I did. I definitely always find it much easier to paint larger areas versus smaller areas. So I tend to like large images. That's the beauty of a digital stamp as well, is digital stamps, you can blow them up as large as you like. You could just take one of these elements and make it super large on your page if that's kind of what floats your boat. So after the eggs dried, when I did the every other, I'm coming back in to finish up those eggs and do the ones that I had missed the first time around. Here's where you can see that the indanthrone blue and the yellow ochre have separated on the eggs that are dry, and you can see that earthy brown tone that's in there. So it adds this mottled texture, and it looks like you've used multiple colors when you've just used a mixture of them. Super cool. Okay, so here I decided to swatch my colors down at the bottom because I wasn't sure what color I was going to use for those little, well, the flux pattern that comes off at the top of these images. I ended up going with yellow ochre, which I really liked, and then I added quinacridone gold as a shadow. I didn't end up liking it as much, so I think if I were to do this again, I'm not sure I would have picked that color at all. Maybe I would have gone with a blue. I don't know. I don't even know what color I would have used, but I don't think I would have used the quinacridone gold again. I don't know. There was something about it I just didn't like. Also, I changed the technique of how I was painting, so now I'm doing a wet on dry technique. Now, why I decided all of a sudden to change what I'm doing, I have no idea. Right now, I'm just picking up yellow ochre. It's all by itself. It's not mixed with any other color. And I think if I had just stayed with the yellow ochre, or maybe even diluted it more and maybe done a wet on wet technique, I would have liked this more. But yeah, I don't end up liking these little guys, unfortunately. But that's going to happen. We're not going to love everything that we create. But what is important is that you don't quit on your card and you keep going. Finish your card, finish your project, because very likely you're going to learn something new, or you may end up liking it in the end. So here's where I took out the quinacridone gold and I started dropping that into the base of them to add a little bit more of a shadow. And maybe if I had just used some of that gray, the Indanthrone that I'd mixed up as the shadow, I would have liked this better. I don't know. It just got too orange or something. Anyway, here's what it looks like after painting all of those guys. And now we need to move into the background. Backgrounds can be a little tricky. The trick to your background is that you want to wet the paper first. And I worked in sections, which was easy to do based on how this stamp was designed. I'm going to use the Amazonite Genuine mixed with the yellow ochre for the background. I put quite a bit of water on that strip of the background, and I'm going to drop in the Amazonite mostly into the nooks and crannies of the image. The trick to a background, if you don't have it segmented off like this, is you want to leave your leading edge wet. So the area up at the top where I need to transition to that next row, I want to keep a wet edge there so that I don't have a harsh line. I forget to do that, and you will see, I'll point it out when I do the close-up of this card. There is a hard edge right at the top of this element, which is now the bottom because I have it upside down, where I didn't keep that leading edge wet. You want to keep that leading edge wet and the paper wet right there so that it doesn't dry and you're able to blend it into that next area that you're going to start painting. Hopefully that makes sense. I did another video where I talked about that. If I remember, I'll link that up top. That time I was watercoloring with watercolor pencils. But it was the same kind of principle. I talked about the leading edge there as well. Okay, so you can see I've let this dry for too long, and now you can see up top, look at the top of that element, see that hard edge there? Because it dried, I didn't have that wet leading edge, and you can see it's not a very smooth transition, but I'm totally okay with it. I actually don't mind that dark color. So I like to print images on a half sheet of watercolor paper so I can use the bottom to swatch, and then I like to label them for myself in case I want to save this palette. Like I can cut off that palette and save it for later if it was one that I really liked. It also helps me when I'm doing my videos and writing up my blog. I have a record of what it was that I used. I went ahead and used an A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch die to cut this. Now, my printer actually resized this image when I printed it on a 6x9 piece of paper. Even though this digital stamp was 4 1/4 by 5.5, because the size of the paper I was using wasn't native to my printer, it scaled it for some reason. You want to be careful about pulling your tape off because my paper was still just a little bit damp. It actually took off some of my image, so I'm just going to draw that back in with a fine liner here. This is a Sakura Micron 01 pen, which is the pen that I use out to do a lot of my Zentangle drawings. Okay, we're done with painting, and now we need to add our secret weapon, which is our shading and our highlights. Got to do that. So I have a pencil and a white charcoal pencil and a tortillon here. You can just use a standard pencil, and you can actually get these white charcoal pencils off of Dick Blick. I'll put a link down below. They'll be full-size pencils. These are just short because they're from Zentangle, and we typically use pencils without erasers. We'd say that there's no mistakes in Zentangle. So I'm just adding a little bit of graphite, and then I'm going to kind of buff that out, work that into the paper with my tortillon. Now, word of caution. My paper is not completely dry because I'm impatient like that. So what's happening when I'm rubbing with the tortillon is it's actually taking the paper off. So you need to make sure that your paper is completely dry before you do this. Otherwise, it'll be so fragile that you'll rub the paper away. So I've kind of lost those dark circles in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and draw those back in with my Micron pen. And do I learn my lesson? No. Because I'm impatient and I want to keep going. So I just keep going. So I've added more graphite here. I've sped it up a little bit because this will be a little bit repetitive, but I'll slow it down when I show you the close-ups. There you can see the difference between the shaded side and the not shaded side. Here I'm highlighting with the white charcoal pencil. You want to hold your pencil more parallel to your card so that you get a good blend and you're using the side of the white charcoal pencil. Same with your other pencil. Hold it more to the side so you get a broader area. That way it's going to be easier to blend. Now with the white charcoal highlights, I don't blend those at all. I leave them on full strength. I don't want to make them any less bright, so I put that on full strength. And it just adds so much contrast and lightness to the card. I think it makes a huge difference. So if you forget to leave a highlight, that's a trick that you can do. Go in with a white charcoal pencil and add it back in. For a flat, almost one layer card, aside from the sentiment, this has tons of texture and dimension in it, and I just love everything that the watercolor and the charcoal and the graphite brings to it. Here are two other card designs that are included in the digital stamp set, and here I've Copic colored them. Be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already so that you don't miss this video. I'm hoping to post this one next week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more inspiration.